So hello from Green-Mopeds. So today we're going to give you a static review of the Artisan ES1-S Pro. Okay, the first thing to talk about is actually the name. So Artisan are the importer. The brand name of the manufacturer is actually Kollter, and you'll see as we go around this bike a company called Tinbot referenced, and Tinbot are the German importer. So you can actually search on Artisan, Kollter or Tinbot ES1-S Pro and you will find the same bike. That is a typical thing that the manufacturers do, is that they brand them for specific people as their requirements demand. So nothing wrong with it, it's just the way that they go about doing it. The next thing to say is about the dimensions. So this bike is actually pretty long. It's 2 meters, just over 2 meters long, and the seat height, if you can judge that, is actually 86 centimeters, which is pretty high. If you compare it to one of the other bikes, say that Super Soccer in the background, you're talking about a good 16-20 centimeters higher. So I'm 6'1" and I can put both my feet flat on the ground when I'm sitting on it. But you know, shorter people might have a bit of a challenge over that. Okay, the power of this bike is 5 kilowatt continuous. So as we've been talking about many times before, there are 3 ways of referencing power. There is the minimum power, then there's continuous power, which is the power rating that you'll see on the V5, and then there's maximum power. So this is 5 kilowatts continuous. Okay, and 11 kilowatts max, which is a lot more powerful than, say, the Horwin in the background, also than the Suron, although the Suron is about under half the weight, so performance might be similar. But yeah, 11 kilowatts. You get that only if you use 2 batteries together. Okay, these batteries are actually used in parallel, so they get a continuous power of 11 kilowatts if you do that. The batteries are 72 volts. It's about 30 amp hours. You might recognize the casing for the battery because, as they say on their website, these batteries are actually used by other manufacturers, so that the actual manufacturer of these batteries is called 10 Power. Okay, and this casing looks surprisingly like a Super Soccer battery, I have to say, although the top's different. This charger is 15 amp, which again is pretty powerful compared to lots of others, especially for an off-board charger. The NIU chargers are typically 5 or 10 amp hours. The Super Soccer, they are bringing out a 15 amp hour charger with their new CPX, but yeah, this is a 15 amp standalone charger. Cleverly, what they have done is enabled you to charge both batteries through one cable, because what you actually do is you daisy chain the battery together. Okay, so there's a cable that will connect this to the next battery. Lots of other people, if you want to charge 2 batteries off the bike, you either need 2 chargers, or you get a splitter with the charger, and then you get 2 battery top leads that you do that with. Okay, so charging from flat would be about 6 hours. Okay, as we go around the bike, as I said, yes, seat height is fairly high. You can get under the seat by this little latch here, and here they've also provided a little loop hook which you can undo to enable you to attach your helmet strap to the bike, or some other sort of security mechanisms if you wanted to. As you can see, it's got footrests, so this is obviously made for 2 people. The seat is easily long enough, and there's rear grips there. Under the seat, so here you can see where the other battery goes. So the other battery actually lies flat this way with the top end here, and here you can see that you're daisy chaining these 2 batteries together. Okay, you can obviously use the bike with 1 battery, but as I said, you will get less power and obviously less range if you did that. But yeah, it's sort of similar setup to something like a Super Socko TC, where you can fit 2 smaller batteries into the under seat compartment to allow you to have 2 batteries at the same time. Okay, so as you can see, it's obviously a chain driven bike, so for those of you who like noise, this bike definitely makes noise. You'll hear that when we do the ride review. So it's a chain, a 51 tooth sprocket at the back there, and because it's a chain, interestingly, Kollter have given you this little oil compartment. I think it's about 1/3 of a litre, 0.3 of a litre of oil. The spec of it is included in the instructions, and they say that you should definitely top it up at about 1,500 kilometres, so about 900 miles. Obviously that gives it a little bit of a maintenance overhead compared to other electric bikes, but still fairly low maintenance. Okay, so as I said, if you do take the off-road kit, you will get both sets of wheels. Okay, so you can swap between one and the other. You see the ventilated discs here are pretty substantial. This is a CBS enabled bike. CBS means that the left lever will actually trigger the front and back together. So here you can see that there are actually 2 leads coming out. One's going in and one's coming out to feed the rear brake as well. So if you use the right hand lever, you're actually stopping the rear wheel as well, and the left hand lever is just for rear brakes. Okay, so yeah, 21-inch wheel if you choose the off-road pack, and 18-inch at the back. Okay, from the front you can see, you know, how much of a mudguard that is to protect you in the case of you do take it off road. I'll show you now how what happens when you turn it on. So there are different ways of turning on this bike. There is through the actual key fob, or the more traditional way of the key. So on the dashboard you will see initially it's flashing up as 50%, then 100%. So that means it was checking to see if there were 1 or 2 batteries involved. Okay, so it's now actually saying that there is 100% of 1 battery, but it would also show that obviously if you had 2 batteries in at 100%. What's interesting about this dashboard is that you can actually change it through touching the button behind here. So there's a button down here, and that enables you to change things like obviously setting the time, setting the odometer or trip counter. Here you see this temperature and it's got a little B above it, so that means the battery temperature of 23 degrees. You can change that to look at the controller temperature or the real temperature as well through playing about with the button at the back. Okay, and you can obviously set the time through that and everything. Another little thing that you have to remember is obviously if you change the wheels, then the speed reading would be incorrect because the wheels are obviously bigger. So through this system, what you actually do is you turn the bike on with that button at the back depressed, and it will actually allow you to put in the size of the wheels into the bike so that it's calibrating the speedometer so that everything's correct. So a good move on their part to think of that sort of thing. And it will just flash up here the diameter of the bike in millimeters, and then you can change it from the default, which is 603, to the extended size of, I think it's 630 or something like that. Okay, so that's just to ensure that the speedometer is reading accurate information. Cleverly thought out. Here you can see that there are the sort of brake fluid levers, and as you can see there, levels rather. Here you can see there's minimum and maximum that you have to keep an eye on. Again, something that you can do, tells you what sort of oil you need to put in it. Here you have the modes. So just like many other bikes, there are different modes. So sport mode will give you 60 miles an hour with 2 batteries. Okay. There's then the intermediate mode, which will get you to about 50, and then eco, which will get you to about 28. Okay, so as a lot of electric bikes do, you have the ability to limit your speed based upon the mode that you pick. This, interestingly, which looks exactly the same as a Super Socko switch, isn't actually an enablement. So you've seen on probably some of our other videos where we say, well, this is the button that you press to make the bike throttle enabled or not. It doesn't do that on this bike. It is actually hazard lights. So it's, as you can see, not too sure why they decided to do it that way, but there you go. So that's what that's all about. Other than that, the bike weight with 2 batteries is about 130 kilos. Each of those batteries is weighing about 11. So obviously taking that out, the standard bike weight is about 109 kilos with no batteries, in case you wanted to lift it onto something. Its maximum all-up weight is about 270 kilos. Okay. Range, as I said, is about 70 miles to 35 miles, so 35 miles per battery roughly. So that should be, let's say, 60 miles with two batteries on. And because Artisan have included the second battery as part of the standard bike, the price for this bike with 2 batteries is 4416 to you after the grant, which is a good price, I would say. You know, a Horwin behind it is over 5,000. A TC Max is 4249, so similar. You could see why there is you're paying more for this bike in terms of power, 11 kilowatts versus 5 kilowatts on a TC Max. So it is a good price for what you're actually getting technically. Okay, so we'll do a ride review at some point, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. Thanks very much.